What's going on, legend? It is Angus here. Thanks so much for stopping by to click on this video. Really appreciate you doing so. In today's video, I'm going to be covering the art of cheat days / cheat meals and how to utilize them without getting fat. Because I'll tell you what, ever since introducing the series on the channel like Cheat Yourself and just people seem the sort of food that I post on social media and stuff like that, I would have to say that one of the most common questions that I get asked literally is exactly that, like, how do you eat as much as you do, or how do you eat that many calories and whatever without getting fat? So there's a science behind it. It is not because I've got godlike genetics or anything like that. There is a science behind it, and that is what I'm going to be teaching you today. So we're going to be going through I guess 5 overall categories, or just things, if you will. First one being cheat days / cheat meals, when you shouldn't be utilizing them, or kind of like who it is for, who it's not for, in terms of the context of a person type or a lifestyle type, if you will, so that way you can kind of see where you slot into things. Where people go wrong with utilizing them, and the frequency that you should go about utilizing them if you actually are in a good scenario to be using them. Basically the secrets behind not getting fat from actually having them a part of your game plan in terms of your relationship with food, and how they differ from refeed days and diet breaks and that sort of thing. Fourth scenario being when to, or how often you should have full 100% hair down, 100% full YOLO spec mode, or as old mate from Tropic Thunder will say, full retard mode. So in other words, just when to go 100% ball to the wall loose. And then last but not least, what to do if you're not at that level of being ready / able to have cheat days and cheat meals in your sort of scenario. Alright, so that's the game plan. Strap yourself in for some Rick Sanchez knowledge bombs, because I'm going to be dropping a heap on you. In a couple of these I will be giving you examples of myself in terms of how I utilize it in my own sort of journey to keep a rock solid relationship with food and that sort of thing, keeping in mind that I have come from a binge eating background years in the past. So you're in for a treat. Really pumped. Make sure that if you're a returning subscriber, let us know your experience with cheat days and what your favorite food is. And if you are new to the channel, what's up? I'm Angus. I love food. Thanks for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed this video and you learned a shitload. And hey, I'd highly suggest subscribing if I was you, if you're keen to learn more and more science behind things, but then see it in action with the other sort of videos that I post of me eating cool shit, training and doing all sorts of good stuff. So strap yourself in, knowledge time. Let's get into the first topic. So to help educate and I guess enhance the experience of the knowledge bombs that are to come, we're going to be using my iPad to help you to understand some of the shit that I'm saying. And for those of you who are visual learners like me, help you to associate better to the knowledge. So we're going to kick off firstly with basically who it's for, or who should be utilizing it, alright? Because I truly believe that there are scenarios of where someone shouldn't be utilizing it, and well, obviously if they are utilizing it in those scenarios, it's going to be something that will fuck up their progress and cause a fairly dodgy relationship with food, and then they're just going to be spinning their wheels, getting nowhere. So first up, in terms of who it is for, or someone that is suited for it, is you've successfully gone through a cut, and by that I mean you have gone through, say for example, in between 12 to 20 weeks successfully completing a fat loss phase, right? And when it comes to that essentially means that you have achieved the outcome. It might have been for a photo shoot, it might have been for a comp, it might have been for just wanting to drop 15 to 20 kgs, but you went through it successfully. So you've gone through and you've experienced what it's like to eat in a calorie deficit. And you've essentially nailed it. All right, so that's one scenario being the case. Another one being that you've gone through that and you're now in a period where you can be eating at maintenance, because the goal isn't to be in a deficit anymore. So this is my scenario. I'm in maintenance at the moment, so therefore utilizing them is quite easy. Another one might be that you've undertaken multiple fat loss phases, right? So you've got more experience in the game of eating in a deficit and stuff like that. You understand the principles of if it fits your macros / flexible dieting, right? Another one might be that you just want more variety in your calories, right? As opposed to, I guess, as opposed to kind of like linear versus non-linear flexible dieting, which we'll touch on more shortly. But these are basically the scenarios that I would deem, like if you were a client of mine, I'd want to make sure that all of these, or at least most of these, have been on point, and that you are on point with all of your health biomarkers. So in other words, you have got a fully functioning profile on blood work, your hormones are all on point, you're on point with sleep, recovery, like basically you're a healthy human, right? And then if we look at a scenario, or the scenarios where you shouldn't be utilizing cheat days, right, or cheat meals, right? The scenarios would be that you are a binge eater, right? So in other words, if you're someone who can't keep consistent with calories or eating in a deficit or whatever, and you are consistently stopping and starting, well then it's obviously not going to be ideal for you, is it? Because just you can't be consistent. You've been someone who is essentially cheating all of your life. And by that I mean like you haven't actually successfully completed a period of time eating in a deficit. Like you literally for most of your adult years or whatever, even in your childhood, have just been a YOLO eater, and yeah, like most of the time you're in a surplus, let's just say. Your relationship with food is shit. We'll put here shit rel with food. Let's say that you suck shit at eating enough plants. That'll probably be a scenario. So you would then be, if that's the case, you'd be very micronutrient and phytonutrient deficient, because there'd be, like, you've just got no naturally occurring bioavailable vitamins and minerals going on because you just don't get enough plants. Let's see. Yeah, there's just no consistency with anything that you're doing. And like if you don't know if it's your macros and flexible dieting is, and you just try to eat healthy / be good during the week, and then weekend is when you YOLO, that's in essence you're already kind of having cheat days there, but you kind of don't really understand the plot behind it, so therefore they're not even being utilized effective anyway, because the whole idea is that, or another scenario being that you have labels towards food. So, and by that I mean you associate to certain foods as good and bad, and there is no concept of moderation between both of them, all right? So as you can see, two different teams. Obviously you want to make sure that if you're to be, yeah, they're both entirely different. We want to make sure that the right scenario is in place to be able to effectively utilize them, and by effectively utilizing them I mean having them amongst your week to week or your month to month, without stuffing up your progress in the pursuit of whatever goals you have. Obviously, if you have no goals whatsoever and you don't give a fuck about your health, well then by all means, utilize them as much as you want. But all that's going to do is just contribute to more and more fat gain, and you gradually probably hating yourself more and more and developing lifestyle-related diseases. So now what we're going to look at is some actual scenarios. Right, so I've got a sick graph going on here, which as you can see has got calories listed at the top, and then we've got what day it is in terms of, well, a week spread. All right, so pay attention, get ready to rock and roll and rumble. Show me what you got in terms of Rick and Morty. So standard scenario for someone, right, in terms of where they go wrong, let's just look at it this way, right? So let's say that the average, so we'll look at a chick in this example, and then after we've gone through this example, I'll use myself obviously being for males, alright? So instead of the chick, your standard intake of fat loss is 1800, right? Actually, I'll make this nice and straight. So you're at 1800 for a Monday. Like standard scenario, like is that it's easy for people to be good the first few days of the week, right? So you know, like it's just like you're in your routine, right? But then what happens here is that as soon as weekend vibes start to roll along, you're invited out to shindigs and after work drinks, and you've got a few social events on. So obviously you're struggling to stick to your normal routine, your normal calories. Some alcoholic bevies are added in and stuff like that. And maybe Friday you keep tabs on yourself decently, but you're still a decent amount over, right? So as you can see there, like you're up by about 2,000, and yeah, no, not 2,000. You're up by about 250, which isn't, you know, make or break. But it's like what I seem to see people do is that this then carries into Saturday. So we're not even talking that they're having a cheat day here. What usually happens is that they've just got no concept of keeping control of themselves, right? So it usually turns into a full YOLO, so to speak, right? So we're talking like a solid feed with the ladies, and you've got a lunch at home, and then you've got some afternoon snacks, and you're out for tea, and then you've got some more drinks and stuff at night, and you've got dessert. And it's like, well, what you can see going on here, if we draw that line again, is it's quite easy to really overdo it. And then what typically happens is that Sunday, similar, maybe not as bad, but let's say that it usually will even out somewhere similar, right? And then because the person will typically feel like a fat piece of shit, like can just hate themselves or whatever, they will drop right down to eating almost next to nothing, right? And if we say that the person's, like this chick's perceived maintenance intake, so obviously their deficit is 1800 in this scenario, so their maintenance might be here at 2200, right? What that then means is that because, so their deficit is there, they've eaten in a deficit, so we've got ding, 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 ding. If we do the math, right, what essentially has happened here is that they, if we zoom in, just to help you understand, right? So here they've created a deficit, right? They've created a deficit here, they've created a deficit here, they've created a deficit here. So they're in a deficit by 400, 600, no, hang on, yeah, 400 calories, that's 400, 800, 1200, so we've got 1600 here, right? But then what's happened is that they're in probably about a 50 deficit here. And then what's happened here is that they are over their maintenance well and truly. So we've got 600 over in here. And this is just me being conservative. Like, to eat 2,800 calories as a chick when you're in full YOLO spec is easy. This would be more like probably up at about, say, 4,000 to 5,000, I'd say. And the following day would probably be at around 4 or so approximately. So that's the case there. You've gone over maintenance by a good 2,000, up by another 2,000, so we're up by about 4,000 there. And then even with eating in a deficit here, you're eating like above your TDER here, right? I mean, sorry, your TDEE, right? And if you're not aware of what that means, it's kind of like your total daily energy expenditure, right? So what makes up your overall metabolism and how your body utilizes energy and your hormones and stuff like that is these various components, right? So we've got your NEAT, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is kind of like your when you go for walks and when you fidget and just as you move about your day-to-day moving shit. I'm using NEAT at the moment, right? Speaking, etc. You've got your thermic effect of food, so like your body burns roughly 10% of the calories that come from what you're eating. So if you eat 1800 calories, you're going to burn about 180 calories through thermic effect of food. And this little black section over here is your EAT. So this essentially means your exercise activity thermogenesis. That's you making gains in the gym, right? And your BMR is essentially impacted by thyroid regulation. So if you consistently YOLO and go through periods of hardcore restrictive dieting, it's going to fuck up your thyroid, which therefore impacts negatively your BMR, which then means that, well, you require less calories to have any chance of losing fat. So it's like you'll be faced with poverty intake, right? So in essence, your BMR is the number of calories required to keep your body functioning at rest, aka your metabolism, and it's determined by the amount of lean mass that you have on your actual frame, right? So keep that in mind, right? And if we go back to this graph here that I was drawing, right? So you can see that the person hasn't even created any sort of deficit, so they've essentially fucked up their progress without even really trying to do so. So that was an example of a chick, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself as an example here, which still applies to women. Obviously I've got a higher intake than most chicks ever will have. But I thought, hey, for those of you guys that are tuning into this video, it makes sense to understand, right? So for me, at the moment, I train regularly. I do 10,000 steps a day. I maintain at about 75 kgs. That's the weight that I like. and to stay athletic and all that sort of stuff. So my maintenance roughly at the moment, right, is my maintenance at the moment is over here roughly at about, let's put it in here, so my maintenance is roughly at about 3,500, right, 3,500. Could even potentially be more than that, given that my energy expenditure has increased a bit more at the moment while it's winter, which is just personal choice. Like, it's something I can sustain easily, so it's probably a little bit higher, but conservatively 3,500, right? So let's say, for example, that it's a Saturday where I do an episode of Cheat Yourself and I go out for a dope feed and whatever, right? So let's say that up there I go for a big feed, and like one just gone, I think it was like 6,000 or something like that calories that I put away, right? So I'll put here 6k, right? So because obviously that is a 2,500 calories above what I normally eat, right? Basically, in essence, how I approach this and how I want you to think, right? We'll do some calculations over here. So if my daily maintenance intake is 3,500, right? If we times that by 7, right? This equals, if I pull out all my iPhone calculator, right? So we've got 3,500 times by 7, that equals 24,500, right? So essentially, how you're able to have cheat days without actually fucking up progress is just deciding basically how many calories you want to have for that cheat day. So let's say, for example, on that day, I plan ahead and go, right, I'm going to have 6,000, it's going to be sick. So if I planned ahead, what I'd actually do is go 24,500, take away 6,000, so that leaves me with 18,500, right, to be able to split throughout the rest of the day. So what I typically do, throughout the rest of the week. So what I typically do is I have Sunday eating actually below maintenance. I actually have Sunday as a day where I eat at a deficit, so I eat at about 2,000. I do the same for Monday. So as you can see there, I am still left with 14,500 to spread across here. So if we do 14,500 divided by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no, hang on, yeah, 1, 2, 3, no, I need to divide it by 4. Divided by 4 equals, that means that I can still have 3,600 quite easily on these other days in terms of them being maintenance intake days. See what I mean? Because overall, that means that with these intact, right, so 3.6, 3.6k, 3.6, 3.6, 6k, and then over here we've got 2k, and then we've got 2k, right? As you can see there, these totals all add up to that overall maintenance intake target. So obviously utilizing cheat days is a lot easier when you are eating in, say for example, we'll use this space over here. It's a lot easier when you actually are eating for maintenance, right? Because obviously what happens is that equals easier. When you are eating for maintenance, obviously you've got more calories up your sleeve, right? Whereas when you're eating, say for example, in a deficit, right? Obviously you've got usually not as much calories to play with. Oh well, yeah, you're going to have less calories to play with because when you're in a deficit, you're usually in between 20 to 40% below your TDEE, so your maintenance intake, right? So say for example, when I was actually in comp prep, what I was doing is I was basically, like, my maintenance wasn't 3,500, it was, I can't remember exactly what it was, it was a lot lower, but basically what my eating looked like, let's say between Monday and, between Monday and Monday here, and then Sunday, what it looked like was usually about just consistency here, so it was like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then Saturday I'd be up at maintenance, and then it was straight back down to here, across, and then whatever my weekly intake was, it was still met. So essentially what you're doing is you're kind of cycling your calories, but in a way that allows you to still hit your overall weekly targets, right? Now, obviously when you're having a full YOLO, right? So a YOLO where this isn't even tracked, and you were just, you know, sky's the limit, 10k calories, bro, like I didn't give a fuck, like as many calories as possible, right? This is an entirely different story, because when you do these, essentially, like, you are eating such a surplus of calories at the end, like you're just not even going to be able to make up for them through having a few days in a deficit afterwards, right? Like, it's just not going to happen. So what you then do, if you really want to, is you could potentially have, let's say for example you did it on a Saturday where it was a big YOLO day and you maybe smashed 10k and you filmed it for YouTube and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm a mad dog, right? What you could do, and this is actually what I do if I have a massive day of eating like that, is I actually fast pretty much all day Sunday. I might have like a small fruit salad or something. So we're talking like the most calories that I'll have is 1,000, absolute max. And then Monday I'll eat in a normal deficit, and then Tuesday I'll usually return to maintenance intake, or might have another deficit day depending on how I'm feeling, and then definitely, yeah, maintenance by then. So that way what happens is that you will lose the water weight that you gain quite easily. Because if you're consistent with calories and you monitor it like what I'm saying and whatever, any weight that you gain from having a cheat day is just going to be water weight anyway, because of the extra carbs and sugar and glucose and stuff that you're taking in, right? That's all it is. You're not actually going to gain fat. How you get fat from having cheat days is, well, if you are consistently above this maintenance intake and you're actually in a surplus, right? And not that being in a surplus is bad, like if your programming is on point with your training and stuff like that, you can actually be gaining muscle and, you know, staying fairly lean if it's done properly, right? But typically, well, this is where people just get fat because they have just don't have any goals and they cruise along, and you know, whatever. This is standard as well from when someone has finished comp, right? So let's say for example that they have finished comp and they don't have any goals now, and they kind of just like, they were fairly restrictive in their relationship with food and they just ate #clean entirely, so they've come out of that competition and they now are just like, oh, I can now eat what I want because I don't have a goal. They start to binge, they have these technically what end up becoming cheat days, but just not even tracked and just let loose episodes really. And yeah, they are now not even gaining water, they're actually starting to gain fat because the frequency of it is high. And this is where they develop what's known as post-comp blues, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be a comp, like it can also be once you've finished a photo shoot, or once you've finished like one of those little bullshit 6-week shreds or whatever, or the 8-week leaner, fitter, stronger challenge, whatever it is, right? So it's like, you need to be mindful that this is why we went through the who it's for and who it's not scenarios here, because if you haven't successfully built a strong relationship with food and you know, nailed it in terms of what if it fits your macros and flexible dieting is about, and you know, whatever, well then it's like you shouldn't really be utilizing cheat days and stuff, because it's like at the end of the day they can be used strategically and yeah, done in a way that can actually improve your relationship with food, right? And even when you're at that sort of level, like, you will have less and less desire to want to even do full, like, no holds barred and calorie challenges and whatever, because you just love your relationship with food existing already. Like, my relationship with food has never been stronger. Like, on my deficit days, it's the only days that I weigh food and track diligently. The rest of the days I can quite easily intuitively eat and just loosely track on my FitnessPal. And then come Saturday or Sunday, based on which day it is that I want to have, you know, some cheat yourself action, you know what I mean? I do it without any guilt whatsoever, and it's fucking awesome. And it's important to note here just quickly that cheat days are entirely different from refeeds and diet breaks and that sort of thing. When you have a refeed, what essentially you're doing is you're increasing calories up to maintenance intake over the course of, like, you might have it for a day or you might have it for 2 days, but basically you're increasing your intake of calories right up to maintenance intake, and you're specifically eating those extra calories from carbohydrates in favor of restoring and boosting leptin levels that typically drop alongside with ghrelin and stuff like that fuck around with your appetite while you're dieting, all right? And when you have diet breaks, these are strategically kind of spaced out across a dieting phase. Let's say, for example, that you're prepping for a comp or for a photo shoot or for a specific whatever it is over the course of 20 weeks, and you were already fairly lean-ish when you started. Obviously, if you're very overweight, well, this doesn't apply to you because, well, you're just going to be in a deficit for some time, let's face it. But let's say that you, are a gen pop or you're a seasoned athlete or whatever, and you're cruising along in a deficit. Probably every 8 weeks or so, you'd be alright to be able to have a 1 week diet break where you just eat at maintenance for that period of time, and you might even have a deload with your training and stuff like that, right? And then you go back into a deficit again for another, let's say for example, 8 weeks, and you'll be in a diet break again for a week. Those extra calories and stuff typically also are utilized with extra carbs just to be able to increase performance and restore ghrelin and leptin levels. And so as you can see, like in comparison to having a cheat day, right, that's literally just where you're eating whatever you want to a specific amount of calories. Whereas when you are having a refeed, well, as you can see, it's specifically extra carbohydrates, right? And obviously if you're having a full fuck this shit, flipping the table, I'm just gonna have an all out YOLO. If it's coming from a good place, awesome. You can probably, if you're fairly lean, get away with doing that maybe once a month or so, provided that you're fairly on point with your eating and your adherence to maintenance calories the rest of the time. But obviously you're going to be careful of binge eating tendencies, and if you're doing that sort of thing coming from a negative point of view. But anyway, I just wanted to rectify, because some people kind of think there's a grey area between the three of those sort of things. That's the difference between refeed days, diet breaks, and having cheat days or cheat meals. If you have any questions around this, please drop in the comments below and let me know if you'd like me to go into some more depth. Otherwise, what we're going to be looking at now is some more aspects of dominating the art of cheat days. So next one is, like, I guess the secrets to not getting fat when eating at maintenance, right, is to basically, well, still give a fuck about calories. Like, obviously maintenance is the holy grail of, like, just like, you've done it, fuck yeah, like now it's time to just maintain some good aesthetics. Like, you are letting your hair down, yes, but it's like the extent as to how much you let your hair down is up to you. And you know, I guess what you actually are looking to maintain, like, you won't be able to maintain comp shreds year round or whatever, but there's no reason why you can't have a six-pack year round, right? And obviously to do that means that you've got to be consistent with activity, you've got to be consistent with recovery. Obviously health now should become your top priority as opposed to aesthetics, right? And now you just get to enjoy your trophy, right? Like this fucking awesome version of you that you've built, and more calories that come with it, all right? Now, if you're not yet at this level where you can cycle calories and have consistency and like be able to handle coming out of a cheat day and back into a deficit periodically and returning back into maintenance or whatever, because your relationship with food is just so shit. If I was you, what I would actually be focusing on is just getting used to eating more plants. Like, try and get plants in every single one of your meals, same as protein in every single one of your meals. Work out your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, and from there multiply it by your activity levels. So for most of you tuning in, probably about like times by 1.3 or 1.5 or so to be able to roughly gauge your TDEE, and that will be your maintenance intake. And work your way up to that gradually over time, and then decide if you want to cut or if you just want to maintain. Because otherwise, if you're just utilizing cheat days willy-nilly when you don't even have a clue about this shit, and you're just a hashtag reformed clean eater, or you know is just keto, well, it's like you're seeing kind of cheat days as like you're doing them to escape how shit your reality is, whereas that should never be the case. You should be doing them because, well, yeah, insert your reason. You don't need to do them, right? No one needs to. I don't need to do them either. It's just because I enjoy them. And, well, why not? Because it's a great way for me to maximize my calories rather than just eating the same 3,500 every day, as you saw in the demonstration example earlier. So I hope from this video you've learnt a thing or two about cheat days. Remember that there is obviously different ways to go about it, and obviously context of goal is everything when it comes to if and when or how regularly you should be utilizing them. So please, let's keep the conversation going. If you have any questions about this, I'd love to hear from you in terms of your experience with utilizing cheat meals, cheat days, that sort of thing. I personally am not a fan of the word cheat, because it's like, well, you wouldn't cheat on your partner would you? So it's like, I think we as a society need to be careful of our terminology used around food and like how we frame it and stuff like that. But hey, if I didn't call the Cheat Yourself series that and whatever, well, it's like how people know it exists, because like, you know, one of the most highly searched things on YouTube is people doing cheat days and food challenges and stuff. So, you know, it's a good strategy for me to be able to bring new people to the channel, and then obviously drop education and all sorts of sick videos in between. But I really hope you gained some value from this video. Please, if you want to make sure that you cement these learnings that you've had, drop them below. Let us know what you found most valuable. If you're a returning subscriber, I'd really appreciate you doing so. Otherwise, if you're new to the channel, please, you know, let us know you found this video. Let us know your experience with food, where you're at in the game altogether. And yeah, be sure to subscribe so you can check out all sorts of sick videos coming through from me. Be sure to turn the notifications on as well. I'll tell you what, because otherwise you'll be missing out videos. I pump them out twice a week or so at least. And if you're keen for more of me in your world, please would highly suggest that you add me on social media. You can check me out in the links below. You can add me on Facebook, you can add me on Instagram. And if you want some more in-depth insight into mastering this shit, whether it be in relation to nutrition, in relation to training, there's a lot of links available in the description below. You can be checking out ebooks, online programs, even my coaching with what that's all about. Just seriously, I've got it all. I've been in the coaching game almost a decade now. I've been a flexible dieting avid follower since 2013. Like, it's just changed the game for me, and I love helping people master it just like what I have, especially those who love food as much as I do, which I hope that is the case for you. So once again, big love. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time on the tubes. Angus out.